Have you ever been kind for so long that people stopped asking and started expecting? At first, they needed help. Then slowly, they needed access. Maybe in your life, it was not a wooden gate. Maybe it was your phone, your weekends, your money, your quiet attention, your ability to listen even when you were tired. Maybe it was the family chat that never stopped asking, the workplace that called you reliable but treated you as replaceable, the neighbor who came once for help, then began walking into your life like your time belonged to them. This is how kindness becomes dangerous. Not because kindness is weak, but because unprotected kindness teaches the wrong people that your life has no door. And when you finally close one small part of yourself, they act wounded. They say you have changed. They say you are no longer the person you used to be. They do not ask why you are tired. They only ask why the door is no longer open. But sometimes, life does not give you peace by making everyone understand you. Sometimes, life gives you peace by showing you who only loved your kindness when it was available without limits. This is the story of Naren, a carpenter who spent his life keeping his gate open for everyone until the day the village tried to take the one gate he had built for himself. Stay with this story, because there may be a place in your own life where people stopped knocking and began calling it love. Naren lived in a small old town where the market road curved around a banyan tree. His house stood near the end of a narrow lane. The walls were clay, the door was old, and the wooden gate in front of his courtyard never stayed closed for long. Naren was a carpenter. His hands were patient. His voice was quiet. He was the kind of man who noticed a broken stool before anyone asked him to repair it. He noticed a loose wheel, a cracked shelf, a widow carrying something too heavy. And because he noticed, people came. At first, they came with respect. "Naren, can you help me with this?" "Naren, only if you have time." "Naren, I will pay you next week." He smiled and helped. He believed goodness should not need too many conditions. His father, Dev, watched him from the courtyard sometimes. Dev was older now. His back had bent. His hands still remembered the shape of wood, but they no longer had the strength to command it. He would watch people come and go through Naren's gate and say nothing for a long time. But sometimes, after the courtyard grew quiet, he would look at his son and say, "A house without a gate is not generous, Naren. It is unprotected." Naren would smile gently. "They are good people, Baba." And Dev would answer, "Good people still need to knock." Naren heard him, but he did not understand him yet. Over the years, the village learned Naren's rhythm. They learned when he woke, when he worked, when he ate, when he rested, and slowly they learned how to enter before asking. A neighbor borrowed his tools and returned them dull. A cousin asked him to repair a chest and forgot to mention payment. A merchant asked for one quick favor, then returned with 3 more. A family asked him to fix a wedding frame, just this once. And every time, Naren said yes. Not because he had endless strength, but because saying no felt heavier than doing the work. That is how many kind people become trapped, not in one cruel moment, but in 100 small moments where disappointing someone feels more frightening than disappointing themselves. Maybe you know that feeling. You answer the message because ignoring it feels rude. You say yes because explaining your no feels exhausting. You keep giving because being called kind has become part of how you know you are loved. Naren's life was not stolen in one dramatic moment. It was borrowed in small pieces by people who never returned the cost. And because he rarely complained, everyone believed nothing was being taken. They called him generous. They called him dependable. They called him a good man. But sometimes praise is not love. Sometimes praise is the ribbon people tie around the part of you they still want to use. There was one dream Naren had carried quietly for years. He wanted to open his own workshop near the market road. Not just a corner behind his house, not just a place where people came through his courtyard and interrupted his meals. A real workshop, with a sign, a bench, shelves for tools, and a gate that opened only when he chose to open it. For months, Naren saved money. He worked late after finishing everyone else's small requests. He bought teak wood from a trader. He polished brass hinges. And every night, under a small oil lamp, he carved the gate himself. It was simple, but beautiful. Along the top, he carved small lotus flowers, not large enough to impress the whole village, only enough to remind himself that something can rise from mud and still belong to the light. Dev watched him work. This time, the old man did not warn him. He only sat nearby and sharpened a small chisel. One night, Naren stepped back and looked at the gate. His fingers were sore. His shoulders ached. But his eyes were alive. To everyone else, it was just wood. To Naren, it was the first doorway into a life that was his own. For the first time in years, he was not only building for others, he was building a boundary around his own future. The trouble began 3 days before the workshop was supposed to open. The whole village had gathered near the banyan tree for a wedding announcement. There were garlands hanging between posts, children running through dust, women carrying brass plates, men speaking loudly in the shade. Naren came only to offer blessings. He stood near the edge of the crowd, quiet as always. Then Mahesh, a distant relative with a loud voice and an easy smile, stepped forward. He spoke about family, about honor, about how the wedding should show the whole village their unity. Then he turned toward Naren. And of course, Mahesh said, smiling wider, "Our dear Naren will bring that beautiful gate he has made. We will place it at the entrance of the wedding courtyard. What better gift from such a generous man?" The crowd turned. Some people smiled, some nodded, someone clapped, then more people clapped. Naren felt the sound close around him. He had not offered, he had not agreed. But in front of everyone, Mahesh had placed his kindness on display and called it consent. Naren's mouth went dry. He thought of the workshop, the opening day, the hinges he had polished, the lotus flowers he had carved after midnight. If he gave the gate away, the workshop would not open. If he refused, he would embarrass Mahesh in front of the whole village. Mahesh stepped closer and lowered his voice, but not enough. "It is only wood," he said. "Family should not have to ask twice." Naren looked at the people waiting for his yes. Then he heard his father's old words inside him. "Good people still need to knock." Naren breathed once. Then he said, "No." The clapping stopped. It was such a small word, but it made the whole crowd feel like a door had closed. Stay with this moment, because what comes after a no often reveals whether people loved your kindness or only loved their access to it. No one shouted immediately. That would have been easier. Instead, silence spread through the village like smoke. Mahesh's smile hardened. A few people looked away. Someone whispered, "He has changed." Another voice said, "It is only a gate." Then came the sentence that struck deeper than anger. He had time for strangers, but not for his own blood. Naren stood still. He wanted to explain. He wanted to say he had helped Mahesh's family for years. He had repaired their doors, fixed their cart, built shelves they never paid for. He wanted to say this gate was not extra. It was the last piece of his beginning. But guilt rose faster than words. That evening, people passed his house more slowly than usual. They looked toward the courtyard. Some did not greet him. One woman said loudly enough for him to hear, "He used to be kind." Another answered, "Maybe the workshop made him proud." Naren sat beside the unfinished gate, long after sunset. The wood looked different now, not peaceful, accused. He touched one carved lotus and wondered if he had become small-hearted. This is the trap good people know too well. You can give for years, then protect one thing, and suddenly, that one thing becomes the only thing people remember. Not the years, not the sacrifices, not the quiet help, only the door you finally closed. That night, Naren almost carried the gate to Mahesh's house. Not because he wanted to, but because guilt can sound very similar to love when you have spent your whole life being needed. Dev found him in the courtyard. The old man did not speak at first. He ran his hand along the gate. Then he sat beside his son. "When I was your age," Dev said, "I had a workshop too." Naren looked at him. His father rarely spoke of those years. Dev stared at the dark lane beyond the courtyard. "People came to me the way they come to you. A wheel, a chest, a broken cart. Always urgent, always small, always just this once." He smiled sadly. "I thought if I kept helping, they would respect me." "What happened?" Naren asked. Dev's voice became quieter. "I gave away my hours until my own work had no hours left. I gave away my strength until my hands no longer belonged to me. One day, I looked at my workshop and realized it had become a road for everyone else." Naren said nothing. Dev touched the brass hinge. "A gate that never closes does not prove the owner is kind," he said. "It teaches the world to stop knocking." The word settled between them. Dev looked at his son. "Do not become cruel, Naren, but do not confuse kindness with surrender. A gate is not built to hate people outside it. It is built so the person inside can choose when to open." For the first time, Naren understood. His no was not the death of his kindness. It was the shape his kindness needed in order to survive. The next morning, Mahesh came to the house. He did not come alone. 2 relatives stood behind him, as if numbers could turn pressure into truth. "The wedding is tomorrow," Mahesh said. "Are you still refusing family?" Naren felt his chest tighten. His father sat nearby, silent. The gate stood behind Naren, leaning against the wall like a witness. "I will not give the gate," Naren said. Mahesh laughed once. "So, that is who you are now?" Naren did not answer quickly. Then he said, "I will come today and help build a simple flower frame for the entrance. I will bring rope, bamboo, and my hands. But the gate stays here." Mahesh frowned. "That is not enough." Naren looked at him. "It is what I can give without losing what I am building." The relatives shifted. No one knew how to argue with a man who was still offering help, but no longer offering himself. This mattered, because Naren was not becoming cold. He was learning the difference between generosity and disappearance. A boundary does not have to arrive with anger. Sometimes it arrives with calm hands and a clear voice. Sometimes it says, "I still care, but I will not be emptied to prove it." And if you keep watching, you will see what Naren's no was really protecting. It was not just wood. It was the first life he had not handed away. The wedding happened the next day. There was music, food, garlands, children with flowers in their hair. And at the entrance stood the simple frame Naren had helped build. Bamboo poles, fresh leaves, a few strings of marigold. It was not as grand as his gate, but it was enough. People entered. People smiled. The bride walked beneath it. The groom's family praised the arrangement. No celebration collapsed. No honor was destroyed. No family name was ruined. That was when Naren saw the truth clearly. They had not needed his gate. They had wanted the best part of his labor without carrying the cost of it. His no had not ruined the wedding. It had only ended their access. Later that evening, Mahesh passed by Naren's house. For a moment, He looked at the gate, then at Naren. He said nothing, but his silence was different now. It was no longer powerful. It was only silence. Naren did not chase him for understanding. He did not explain again. He simply returned to the courtyard and placed his hand on the gate. For the first time, the wood no longer felt accused. It felt protected. 2 mornings later, Naren carried the gate to the market road. His father walked beside him slowly. A few neighbors watched from their doorways, some with curiosity, some with judgment, some with quiet respect they were not ready to show. Naren fixed the gate at the entrance of the small workshop. He tightened the hinges, set the latch, wiped dust from the carved lotus flowers. Then he stepped back. The workshop was not grand. The roof was patched. The bench was old. The shelves were uneven. But the gate stood steady. For a long moment, Naren did not open it. He simply stood before it and breathed. Then came the first customer, a schoolteacher holding a broken writing box. She stopped at the gate, and instead of walking in, she asked, "May I come in?" Naren looked at her. Something in his chest loosened. "Yes," he said. "Please come in." That was the first time he understood what peace could feel like. Not being unreachable, not being hard, not being praised by everyone. Peace was having a life with an entrance. Peace was helping from choice, not pressure. Peace was knowing that the people who respected the gate could still receive the kindness behind it. Weeks passed. Some people still complained, but others learned. They knocked, they waited, they paid, they thanked him, and slowly, the village adjusted to the shape of a man who no longer gave himself away to be considered good. Maybe your gate is not made of wood. Maybe your gate is the message you do not answer at midnight, the weekend you no longer sacrifice, the money you no longer lend without thought, the emotional labor you stop giving to people who never ask how you are. Maybe your gate is a sentence. I cannot do that this time. I need rest. I can help, but not like that. No. And maybe when you first say it, someone will act hurt. Someone may say, you have changed. But sometimes that is true. You have changed. You have stopped treating your peace like a public resource. You have stopped confusing access with love. You have stopped believing that every closed door is cruelty. A boundary is not the end of kindness. It is the place where kindness becomes honest. Because love that requires you to have no limits is not love. It is permission disguised as need. And the life you are trying to build cannot grow if everyone else is allowed to walk through it without knocking. Maybe Naren's story found you because you have been standing near your own gate, tired, guilty, unsure, holding the part of your life you are afraid to protect. Maybe you have been kind for so long that people forgot your kindness was a choice. Maybe they forgot your time belonged to you. Your energy belonged to you. Your future belonged to you. Maybe they only noticed the boundary because they had become used to the access. If that is true, do not rush to hate them, but do not rush to abandon yourself either. You can love people and still have a gate. You can help and still have hours that are yours. You can be generous and still refuse to be consumed. The goal is not to become unavailable. The goal is to become honest, to open from love, not fear, to give from fullness, not guilt, to say yes because it is true, and no without needing to become cruel. Naren thought his no would make him less kind, but it did not. It made his kindness clean. It made his peace possible. It taught him that the people who truly respect your heart will not need unlimited access to prove it exists. So if this story found you at the right time, leave one word in the comments: peace. Not because you have stopped caring, but because you are finally learning to care without disappearing. And remember this: when your kindness became their permission, life may have given you the courage to build the gate that finally brought you peace.